One of the things that airline pilots are often asked to do in an interview is to brief an approach off of a Jeppson or an NOS approach plate. And basically what the interviewer is looking for is that you're familiar with the approach plate, that you have a method to your briefing, that it's sequential, i.e. organized in a phase of flight, kind of a fashion that makes sense. And that you hit the high points without just reading all the information off of the chart. So there's a million techniques into how to brief an approach. I'm just going to give you one. Many of you already have a technique that you use, and that's fine as long as it keeps with those basic tenets. So first, the basics. Let's take a look at a Jeppson approach chart and just cover a little bit of the basic layout. There's four basic parts to a Jep. The first part's the briefing strip. Has the frequencies, ATC frequencies, as well as the ILS frequency and course. Sometimes covers the decision altitude, airport elevation. Has the min safe altitude, missed approach, which is usually best left to brief later, and then a section of notes that you'll want to review prior to your briefing. The next part is the plan view, which is God's eye view of the approach. Shows the transitions, once again some terrain information, frequencies, and kind of the overall view. Sometimes there's notes here that you'll want to reference also. The third part, the profile view, is kind of the altitudes you're going to fly on the approach. It'll cover basically the final portion of the approach up until the mist. And it has a section in here that has the lighting and also a condensed version of the mist approach. And then the minimum section, which is going to cover your minimums for the approach and also some more notes down there. So now that we've covered the basics, let's get into the operational part of getting ready for an approach. I usually try to do my preparation for this in advance. I don't brief the approach until I've already reviewed it and set up the cockpit. I'll do a silent review, check the weather, the NOTAMs, landing performance, anything that might be important if there's land and hold short operations. I'll try to review all that in advance. And this is usually all done at cruise prior to top of descent when you're not real busy. You can use memory aids. Some people have an acronym to make sure they cover everything for this part of the getting ready for the approach. I was taught one that I'll throw out that I used, which was airbag. The A stands for ATIS. When I check the weather, I also look at the NOTAMs at that point. I is for install the approach if you have an FMC and you need to do that. R is radios. So you set your radios for the approach, ILS frequency. Many people will stop there. I recommend that you always consider your approach all the way through the worst case, which is through the mist. So if there's a mist approach, you set your radios for that also, so you're prepared for the mist. B is I use for three things: bugs, auto brakes, and brief. So I set my airspeed bugs, any bugs that you need to set, altitude bugs, auto brakes, whatever setting I've decided to use, and then B is finally brief the approach after all those bugs are set. The other A is at the completion of the briefing, complete the approach descent checklist, or if you have a descent checklist. And the G stands for go around. Hopefully you've covered that as the last part of your briefing, but this is just one more chance to make sure that I did that. And I always like to emphasize not just to cover the profile of what you're going to fly, but actually cover the missed approach procedure for your airplane. So maybe it's a good time to review that. And now, as far as actually doing the brief, I treat it as just like a checklist. Some checklists are read and do. Some checklists are a flow, and then when you run the checklist, you're just confirming that you've set everything. And I prefer the second option. I'll set everything in advance, and then when I brief, hopefully I'm not setting my bugs at that point. I've already done all that, and I can just confirm that everything is set. So I'll give you just an example briefing on this approach. The way I would brief this after I had everything all set up, make sure the other pilot has the same chart out. So we'd start with something like this. This is the ILS in San Francisco, runway 28 right, page 11-4, dated 4 July of 14. The ILS is IGWQ 111.7, and the course is 284. We'll cross Axmal on the glide slope at 1,800 feet. Touchdown zone elevation is 13 feet, so we'll set 100 for touchdown zone in the MCP window. Min safe altitude is off the San Francisco VOR. The highest is to the north, 5,100 feet, southwest 3,500 feet, and southeast 4,500 feet. Highest obstacle looks like a tower at 3,100 feet roughly, just east of Meta. There is a note that radar is required and that they have simultaneous operations require the use of vertical guidance and maintain the last assigned altitude till established on the glide slope. We'll plan on setting 213 feet for decision altitude today. When we come in, we're going to have radar vectors, but if we had to, we could go to Meta, and from Meta it's 4,000 feet until Dumba, and then 3,000 until Seepin. Crossing Seepin at 3,000, I'll just plan on intercepting the glide slope, and then down the glide slope, Axmal's at 1,800 feet on the glide slope. They have a PAPI on the left side with ALSIF 2 approach lighting. I'm going to plan on flaps 30 with auto brakes 2, be a left turnoff, probably one of the first 2 high speeds wherever it's convenient, and we'll hold short of 28 left. In the event of a mist, we'll do the published mist or as directed by the tower. The published mist is climbed to 3,000 on the 281 degree radial of San Francisco to VICU and hold. I'll plan on performing the mist by hitting the go-around switch. It'll be going around, flaps 20, check thrust, positive rate, gear up, check mist approach altitude. 200 feet, I'll hook up the autopilot. At 400 feet, I'll press LNAV or hitting select if they give us a heading. At 800 feet, why don't you dial me up to 180 knots? We'll go to flaps 5, and I'll just hit flitch to climb out. Any questions or comments? And that's basically how I'd brief the approach. It doesn't have to be long or overly detailed, but just to hit the high points and make sure that the two of you are on the same page. So hopefully that helped a little bit, and good luck on your interview. Please come to the website, airlinepilothiring.net. Follow us on Facebook or Google+, and keep up on all the latest information that we have on pilot hiring. Thanks for watching.